Chapter 1 of Merry Clappum Junction. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Ruth Golding. Merry Clappum Junction, or The Strange Adventures of the New Zealand Express and a Boy. A quick train of thought, with music, intended for children of all ages. By Arnold Kennedy. Chapter 1. The Departure. In a comfortable room of a house not far from Addition Road Station, Wax Candlington, West, sat a small boy with a long name, and a large dog with a short name. The boy's name was Marmaduke, but his schoolfellows one and all refused to call him by it. Some, who thought it too splendid, changed it to Marmalade, and others, who thought it too long, changed it to Tommy. The name of the dog was Winkle, which suited his character as a puppy much better than his present size and dignity. It was nearly dark in the street, and would have been quite dark in the room but for the brilliant though uncertain light of a huge fire. In broad daylight the room had 4 corners, but just now it seemed to Tommy, as we shall call him, that it had a great many more. How many he could not quite make out, for they came out different, as he said to himself, every time he tried to count them. In this respect he thought they were extremely like sums in arithmetic, for Tommy was slow and backward at all lessons. He had often been told that what he heard in class went in at one ear and out at the other, and he himself was inclined to think this a reasonable and natural explanation of his forgetfulness and other shortcomings. That phrase came into his head just as he had given up counting the corners of the room, and he applied it, oddly enough, to 2 musical performances which now began, one in the street and the other in an adjoining room. If our own duet, he said to himself, his mother and sister were the performers, goes in at my right ear and out of my left, then it will meet the street duet, which wants to come in at my left ear, and will keep it away. Our duet will have gone through me, and so I shan't hear it any more, and the other duet will never get to me at all. In spite of this reasoning, he continued to hear them both, but chiefly the trombone and flageolet outside, which were engaged upon The Last Rose of Summer. By an amicable arrangement suited to the capacities of each instrument, the trombone went steadily through the melody, while the flageolet executed variations on its own account, the effect being something of this kind. The duets were not the only noises audible in the darkening room. Other people's fathers, as Tommy expressed it, were walking home along the pavement, and their regular footfalls mingled with the bell of the muffin man, and were occasionally drowned altogether by the shriek of an engine whistle. The neighbouring station was an unalloyed pleasure to this boy, whatever it may have been to some of his elders. There was no detail connected with it, from shunting a goods train to clipping a ticket, which had not some interest for him. Engine drivers were his heroes of romance, and guards were beings at once delightfully and awfully superior. The writer apologizes to his young friends for using this word in an old-fashioned, though not unnatural, sense. He had often debated in his own mind whether he would be a guard or an engine driver when he grew up. That he could and would be one of the two he did not doubt for a moment. As his thoughts now gradually wandered to that place of charm and mystery, the station, he said to himself, "I shall run round before tea and see the express come in from the city, the one that has new carriages and that only stops at Bewildering Junction and Foxbridge Road. It's a little too early yet, though." "Why, I am in the station!" he exclaimed. "I must have run very quick." It seemed strange that he could not remember putting on his cap and coming along the road, yet no doubt he had done so, for here was the familiar platform with a train ready to start. "I'm only just in time to see it," thought Tommy, strolling along towards the engine. Two or three things presently struck him as odd, or at least as unexpected, for he had often before met the much respected express. One was the immense crowd of people on the platform, and the way in which they darted about incessantly in regular lines, as though they were playing some game, or trying to describe circles and triangles for the benefit of a Euclid class. Another was that no one seemed to be leaving the station as usual, but every one to be looking for a train to start by. It seemed strange, too, that there was a piano in the first-class waiting-room, which he had not noticed on his former visits. All his attention, however, was soon given to the bustle and talk all round him. "Please label my box for Australia," said a young woman just behind him, "and don't forget to tie my photograph to the handle, then they'll know who I am." "By your leave, lady," cried a porter dressed in green, who was carrying 6 or 7 boxes on his head. "Oh, please," said another voice, "is this the train for the Black Sea? I've been looking for it since last Wednesday." "No'm, Black Sea train doesn't start till next year. Your Black Sea train and your White Sea train run year and year about." "What a lot of passengers there must be in those trains," said Tommy to the porter, who looked hard at the boy, and then said in a low voice, "There's never any." Addition Road Station now seemed to Tommy more wonderful than ever, and as he stood thinking about the queer things he had heard, a tall guard rang a bell close to his ear. "Now then, take your seats. Get in, get in, get in," sang the guard. "New Zealand Express, not stopping this side of the North Pole," he shouted, adding in a whisper to Tommy, "We don't stop this side of the North Pole, and we don't stop on the other side either. In fact, we don't go that way at all. Now then, young gentleman," he added in a louder voice, "where's your ticket?" "I haven't got one," said Tommy ruefully, "but I've got a new penknife and some toffee in my pocket, and 5 shillings in a box at home." The guard frowned. Then he wrote with a piece of chalk on the side of the carriage, "The boy has no ticket, but the boy has a penknife. The penknife belongs to the boy. The boy has also toffee. Here are 5 shillings. The shillings are in a box." The passengers suddenly ceased running about, and crowded round Tommy till he felt nearly smothered. At that moment a tremendous whistle came from the engine, and the train began to move. "They will all be left behind," thought he. And no doubt they would have been had not a troop of porters appeared and thrown the people into the carriages. "Boys under 15 must fly, that's the rule," said the guard, stamping wildly on the ground. feeling quite certain that he had to go by this train like the other passengers, Tommy gave a little jump, and spread out his arms as if he were in the water, and in a few moments he was safely landed on the top of the carriage next the engine. "They always told me that only birds could fly," said he, much pleased with his own success. As the train steamed out of the station, the guard jumped after the last carriage, and holding on for a moment with legs extended and coat tails flying, he looked like an animated kite. "I don't want to go as far as New Zealand," thought Tommy. "I'll get out at the first station." He sat down, for curiously enough there was a chair on the top of the carriage. And then he noticed, much to his surprise, that Winkle was lying at his feet, asleep, and apparently quite comfortable. After holding a short conversation (that was what he called it) with the dog, he was suddenly jerked about in an alarming manner, and he heard a clattering noise as though chimney pots and tiles were falling on the pavement. He was not long in discovering the cause of all this, for, in fact, the train was running at great speed over the roofs of houses, and leaping across the streets. There was really nothing to hold by, but Tommy put his hands on the dog's head, shut his eyes, pressed his lips together, and prepared for the worst. End of chapter 1.